Hi, this is Rudy Rodriguez, and welcome to the High Profit Event Show. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Miss Jill Lublin. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you, Rudy. Delighted to be here.
Yes, and same here. Really excited to have you here today as our, expert in the field of publicity. I know that you've had over 25 years experience in the publicity field, having spoken on many stages, some pretty well-known names like Tony Robbins. I know you spoke on his Business Mastery stage a number of years ago. You've been endorsed by the likes of Les Brown. You've worked with Lisa Nichols, Jane Malachek, Mark Vincer Hansen. Just to name a few quick people, right? Jack Canfield, like T. Harv Eckert. You've been around the block, publicity, and events. You've been doing events for over 15 years and done over 1,000, either mostly in person, but now some virtual events as well. And you've been mentoring and coaching clients, hundreds of clients over the years. So obviously you have a lot of expertise in the field, and we're really excited to have you on the show to share that experience with us.
Thank you. I am grateful to be here and super excited to help your listeners.
Awesome, Jill. And I think what would be really fun just to jump into is a little bit of backstory. So some people who may not know you necessarily, and kind of share a little bit about your journey, what brought you into publicity, what brought you into events, and just kind of what brought you into the field for some of the event leaders, and maybe talk about some of the I talked about some of those insecurities that may have come up for you along the way. I know you recently did your first three-day summit as well. Maybe we can tell that whole story. I think it'd be a great place to start for our interview.
Absolutely. Well, the truth is I started events because it's a great way to create valuable contacts for your prospects and your clients to see you in action, to fall back in love with you, or to fall in love with you for the first time, or to even fall in like with you and go, well, yeah, I think she or he would be very interesting to work with. And that's really why I started. I mean, originally I started because I had a PR agency, and it was client generation. It was creating new prospects, new clients, and new relationships. And it has evolved into a wonderful opportunity to now serve people in a really wonderful format, which your great company assists me with and supports me with, to really provide really an amazing value for people, such great learning, and a great place to put all the people into like one place. But let me tell you, and Rudy, you basically alluded to it, and that is, it wasn't easy for me. I mean, frankly, I didn't know exactly how to put all this together. You certainly have helped me with this, and your systems and processes. It's been amazing and a delight and honor to work with you. And really, the reality is, yes, I've been doing one-day virtual publicity courses, and actually they were live for quite a while, and they were virtual, right? And then we found a great format to do them virtually. But I'll tell you, then it was like, okay, let's do this 3-day summit. Like, wow, what a fabulous other opportunity. And now people, go into my publicity mastermind as a direct result of it. So let me just tell you, though, the first one I did, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I don't know how to do a 3-day event. I don't know how to hold the energy for a 3-day event, because listen, I've been to enough of my own, in my own learning. I'm always committed to growth. And the reality is, all of a sudden, I had to lead it, right? I mean, that's a whole nother level of responsibility. But what I really have been grateful for is, and you and I had a chuckle about this before the show, because you talked me off the ledge. I said, I'm not going to do this. I think it's just a bit much. And you're like, come on, you can do this. And really, through your mentoring and coaching, I'm so grateful that not only have we done a couple now, certainly 4 or 5, I think, up to this point. And they keep getting better. And I'm learning and growing like we always are. And I have a much better formula for delivering it.
Awesome, Jill. Well, thank you for that credit. Credit really goes to you. You're the leader. You're the one that put yourself out there. You're the one promoting and filling your events. And I'm just a messenger. And I do appreciate the work we've gotten to do together, and it's been wonderful to see your growth over the last several events that you and I have done together. So thank you for that. And Jill, like you said, you've done over 1,000 one-day events. Recently moved into the 3-day type of format through the virtual environment. And I'd be curious, what advice would you have given to yourself before, your pre 3-day summit self, virtual summit self, knowing what you know now, having made many of the mistakes and learned many of the lessons, like what kind of advice would you give to yourself if you could go backwards?
Well, and always, of course, what is that? What do they say? Hindsight is 2020, right? So, I think really having a flow is excellent. And of course, we've been able to nail that down better and better and better each event. But I think really knowing a flow, right? And you also got to see what hits the audience with the flow. In other words, what works not only for you, but frankly, for your audience who you want to contribute to. And that's really important. Like, where's the breaks and what's best and how long are those breaks anyway? I mean, all that kind of stuff. The thing around, for me, right, I had to learn when I do present my mastermind offer, my publicity mastermind offer, like shut the mic off, right? No questions. And I originally had been taking Q&A and different things. Well, I learned not to do that. And I think the tension, that got created was much, much better in terms of results. So that's been super great. I would also, I think what I might call scripting, it sounds, kind of, but it's true. You need to be scripted. You need to know the flow of the event. You need to understand which directions you're going in and where to put the emphasis, and like everything, that keeps getting better and better. But I think that part, that's mostly, and then of course, just in general, handling fear, handling anxiety as it comes up, knowing what to do, which I have my own processes and rituals, and that makes a big difference. But I do think, it's just going to come up. I don't know that I've handled it totally. I mean, it's not 100%, but I certainly am better and better and better. And so the thing I tell my before self was, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And that it does keep that getting better and easier and more flow and even more presence.
Awesome, Jill. Thank you for sharing that. And one quick point I want to highlight for our listeners here. You made a comment about, you learned something about not doing Q&A when it came time to make an offer, and to be a little more, you use the word scripted, but, pre-planned, intentional, have a syntax of what you're doing. And I just want to speak to that real quick, because I see that as a common thing that I see with event leaders when it comes time to make an invitation for their program. There's a saying that goes, a few sayings here. One, when 2 or more people meet, the person that has more certainty is going to influence the other person. So, there's one factor there as an event leader, making sure that you're very certain about what you have to offer. But the other thing is, from an enrollment perspective, once you invite someone to participate, and you invite them, hey, would you like to do it? Would you like to apply? Allowing for the silence, allowing for there to be nothing else said at that point. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable for people, but it's necessary so that people have an opportunity to reflect and make a decision. I oftentimes tell people the next person that speaks is going to be the one that makes a decision, or the next person that speaks is going to be the one that buys, essentially. So one of the coachings I've given is, once you invite somebody and you do your call to action, at that point, you take that clean break, you allow for a buying break, you make sure people know what to do to take that next step. And then you come back maybe 10 minutes later and then address any questions or have it, but you got to allow that opportunity for that space and that silence, so people can have that tension and they can make that decision.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't know that. I mean, I, like many of you probably watching this, we want to give, we want to give, we want to give, we want to contribute, right? And that's why you're probably in the business you're in, I think, for all of us. So here's the deal though. And I think this is the other thing, is too much fire hosing, right? You just want to keep giving so much information that then people can't sit back and go, oh, okay. So that's been a really big thing about this, what I'll call stop the fire hosing. And that includes with the Q&A, meaning stop even the opportunity, just let them be in that. And by the way, that was uncomfortable for me. You mean I just turn off the mic, turn off the camera and like go away? Like, might they have questions? Yeah. And that was powerful, to just be and leave the silence.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jill. I'm sure, like I said, if it was uncomfortable for you, it is for most people. And I agree. Most of the event leaders that I interview, they're people that want to make a difference with other people. And it's really sometimes difficult to transition from just like teaching to inviting and to do it effectively, right? And it really is a little bit of a science, to how you lead people through the process of making an informed decision that's going to be good for them, and a committed decision, right? And it can't just be done. You can't just wing it, right? It has to have a plan and syntax and order at which you do things. So.
Right. And that's what I've learned so much, and so grateful from all of you, because that's what was missing for me was all of that, right? I could deliver, I've got the great information. I have all that, but there's so much more to this. And I think that's important to know.
Yeah, definitely, Jill. And, kind of we're reflecting on the past event, oftentimes just thinking about, I think there's more to learn about the mistakes that we made sometimes than what worked. Are there any other like mistakes that you saw that you made maybe early on your first event or two that you would, now knowing what you would do differently? Anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, I said yes to a few people applying to my publicity mastermind that I should have said no to. And we had the interview, which, now we have a multiple step process, just like you're saying. And the reality is people will show you who they are fairly quickly. And so I had one of those, oh my gosh, she was a demanding problem client, we'll call it. And, the truth is it started in the interview and whatever. And what I've learned is say no when it just doesn't feel right. And so that was a mistake. I maybe said yes to somebody I shouldn't have. Only one, but still, that was a mistake. So I think that's really important. Like, pay attention to your gut. If something or someone doesn't feel right to work with, just say no. I promise you the money will come in other ways. And I think that's important. Certainly, the other thing is we didn't, the first time, as I remember, have all the cameras counted, like who are the people in the room? And that included cameras on, where they engage. So now I have a virtual assistant who's taking attendance, watching for cameras on, watching for how many people show up. And that's the other thing that I think we made a mistake. We didn't, shall we say, let the people know who didn't show up. Hey, you're not here. We miss you. That was something we've put in also that's gotten, I think, better. To just, really stay with people in their process of showing up. So that's been some good corrections that I think have helped.
Yeah, great points. Being intentional about having someone take attendance and count cameras on and create that engagement for people. I think one of the things I noticed you did in your event is you played some games and you made sure that people had their cameras on in order to participate in those games. And I think that's pretty intelligent, right? To get people engaged. And yeah, and I did notice that the people in your event, the ones that were there were really there and they're really engaged. And you had a very high level of percentage of people who applied for your program as a result.
Yes. And I actually, one thing, I teach publicity. It's like, you got to show up on camera. You got to have people relate to you. And also we give away some prizes that helps. And part of my, if you're going to win the prize, you have to A, be here, and we will go over your name if you aren't, or B, you got to be on camera. So there's some demand for that helps.
Awesome, Jill. Thank you for sharing that. And, we have about 5 minutes roughly remaining in our interview, and I'd love maybe to have you share a little bit about your core competency, right? You are a publicity specialist, and our show topic is, how to monetize your message with publicity and your events. I just want to share if there's like something that you really want to share along that line. Love to hear it.
So one of the things around having an event is you are already an expert. So one of the things I'd really encourage you to do, there's a couple things. One is, yes, you can send out a press release about your event, but truthfully, that's not the story. It's part of the story. I feel that you should do that. And I'd like you to see what else is in the story. I mean, let's say your event is about, I don't know, fill in the blank, having more effective sales. Let's just take that one. And, I'd rather you talk to business editors about the fact that small business owners need to have better sales, and here are some ways they can do that, right? And you be, of course, that expert. So that's how I think you're going to draw most people to your event, with the link, of course, embedded in all of the interviews you do. The other thing I'd encourage you all to do is do an article, 500-word article, simple. And again, let's just go with let's say you're doing a piece on how to close more sales. Well, that'd be the article. 3 great ways for how to close more sales, and post that in as many places as you can. One being, big hint, medium.com. And then again, in the article, you will have the links to your event. So those are all great places. And the other thing is, there are probably Facebook groups you are a part of, just, naturally, memberships that you're a part of. And it's fascinating to me that people often forget to publicize in the very places that you are a member and that people already know you. So that's something I really want to encourage all of you to do too.
Those are it's some great laser coaching there, Jill. Really valuable resources you share there, and we'll make a point to the websites you mentioned. We'll include them in the show notes as well for our audience to tune into. Jill, if somebody wants to learn more about you and what you do, what would be the best way for them to reach you and learn more about what you do?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I've created a free gift for you, so I definitely want to encourage you to go get that, which is a wonderful action guide and an opportunity to actually be in a live interactive masterclass with me. So you get that by going, and that's the best way actually to get in touch with me. Plus I'll give you a schedule link too. But to do that, it's publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. So that's the wonderful gift, also with the masterclass. And then feel free to schedule time with me and let's talk. And for that, you go to jilllublin.com/schedule.
All right, perfect, Jill. I made a note of that, and we'll also include that with our show notes as well. So our audience members know how to learn more about you, participate in your masterclass, and connect with you directly if they feel called. Jill, I've got the pleasure of having met you probably, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've gotten to work together for a few years now, and it's really been a pleasure. One of the things I appreciate about you is, not only are you great at publicity, but you really do it with an eye on service, on kindness, and really making a difference with people. And you really are one of the world's renowned experts in the field of publicity. So if we have members of our audience who are authors of books, who want to be out in the media more, who want more publicity, I highly recommend, if that's you, reach out to Jill Lublin, take her publicity crash course, have a consult with her. I promise you'll get a lot of value from that experience, because I know Jill. I know how she's committed to serving. Jill, in our last minute or so, do you have any final comments for our audience?
Well, let me just say, I know that most of you watching this are like Rudy, you said, you are committed to service. You are committed to contributing, and you are messengers in a way, just like all of us, right? And so one of the things that I love about the media is the power of that multiplication of your message. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's why it's going to bring people to your event and to you. And so I just want to remind all of you that your message matters. That's what I want to leave you with. Your message matters. And let's get it out there.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for that message, that your message matters. Everyone has a voice. I believe everyone has a voice. And even though some of us may be saying the same thing in a different way, I think when it comes to somebody hearing the message, sometimes they need to hear it from you, right? They hear it from you differently than they may hear it from someone else. And yeah, everyone's message definitely matters. I believe that too. Awesome. Well, for our audience here, be sure, if you found value from today's episode, like the episode, share it on social media, subscribe if you haven't already to the podcast. We release episode weekly. And if you really enjoy this as well, share this with someone who you think would resonate with Jill and what she had to share today. Jill, thank you again for being a guest on our show today. With that being said, we'll go ahead and call it a wrap. Thank you so much, ma'am.